What is happening, everybody? I hope you've had a good...
Back in like 2005, something like that.
I think my first con was so good. It's Friday Junior.
It's Friday Junior, it's podcast day, it's payday.
And then you come out doing a like, doesn't matter how you feel about the situation.
My name is Raff, and always before we start the podcast, because we just want to talk about it. We want to talk about music and just share those stories and experience. This is my co-host, Kyle, aka the BeerBuddy. He is hailing you.
This sort of weird era where they're sort of right in that post-grunge.
Look, you're fighting the good fight in today's world. My war was fought 40 years ago, really.
We are the two dudes who talk music, and we are here. Hey, I'm too quick on that air horn button, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, that is amazing. I love it. Your second of it, dude. Fantastic.
How you doing, everybody? I am the Reverend Raff. This is my co-host, Kyle, aka the BeerBuddy.
What's going on?
We are the two dudes who talk music, and we are here today for you with another podcast episode. But before we dive into that, if you enjoy your time with us today, it would really mean a lot if you could hit that subscribe button down there and ring the bell, help grow the channel. Obviously, we're trying to sort of grow things a bit more for, grow our reach and put more content out for you guys. So if you have a good time with us today, that'd be very much appreciated. We do reaction videos every Monday and Friday and sometimes Wednesdays if there's lots of cool stuff coming out. And, we've got the podcasts every Thursday as well as ancillary content from that on Saturdays and Sundays. So this video is almost every day of the week for you. We do have the podcast in audio form as well. That's out on all of the platforms. You can get that on Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, iHeart Radio, the RSS feed, all of the usual places. We'll have the LinkTree and all the good stuff down in the description. But with that all out of the way, my friend, it was quite a mouthful. How you doing today, mate?
Man, so good.
Yeah. What have you been up to?
Really enjoying. Dude, I went to Mum's today and I ate too much food. So that was great. Love that. Love those Sundays, man. Love those Sundays.
It's always a good day.
Really, really enjoying the band we have on. So that's always good. I love getting these interviews in because we get to enjoy a bit of fresh music. If we haven't heard them before or anything like that, it just makes for a good time. How are you going? I know you've had some upgrades done on the house recently, and
yeah, man. Yeah, I don't know if you can see the thing moving in the back. That ain't moving from the fan, baby. That's moving from the aircon that we got put in. So summer is going to be a lot better this year. I can tell you that now.
Yeah, nice.
But man, I'm doing all right. I'm not as hungover as I thought I would be. Had a bit of a it's Sunday at time of recording. I had a bit of a shindig last night. A little bit of the old birthday celebration with some friendos. So. That was pretty good, but man, I'm raring and good to go. Now today's band is one that I actually encountered when I saw another band that we'd interviewed. So those of you who have been following what we're doing for a little while now will recall that we interviewed The Last Martyr a little while back. When I went out to their show on their recent tour, I caught this band. I thought they were really interesting and that we should get them on for a chat. So today with us, we have Mish from Torizon. Let's get into it. Thank you very much for joining us today, Mish. We very much appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
So for those who are not aware, what is the elevator pitch for Torizon?
Ooh, elevator pitch. I'm claustrophobic. No, I'm kidding. It is, at least the newer stuff is very much Evanescence and Bad Omens Had a Baby.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. It's very alternative metalcore, I would say, and it's. I mean, the themes, the beautiful vibrant synth offsets the very dark themes that I write about. It's about empowerment, things through trauma, depression, mental health, just life. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, now I caught you guys at the recent show in Brisbane that The Last Martyr played, promoting their new song, incredible band that is. And, when I saw you guys performing up there, I'm like, yep, absolutely need to get Torizon on. The sound is it's very much kind of what's going now. It's like right in the pocket with a lot of what's out and about at the moment, and you guys are I think really nailing it, doing a really, really good job. How did Torizon get started? Like, how did you guys come together and kind of, get things going during the origins of the band?
Yeah, the pre-pandemic era. That was a vibe. Okay, so it started off with a vocal cord injury, actually. I used to do extreme vocals. The injuries, definitely not because of that. I always have to make that clear because people are like, you used to scream and then you just said you had an injury. It was as a result of my speech. And I took some time off music to recover. And I was working with really great team in Queensland here. And I just couldn't, I hated my life because I wasn't allowed to sing. I couldn't do music and it really sucked. So during that time, even though I was only halfway through rehab, I started just reaching out to people and see if people want to at least start writing the musical part of this, whatever musical project would be, and just reaching out to people to just kind of link up and jam kind of thing, and just write together. So that's kind of how it started before it formed a name. And then in 2019, we had a bunch of session musicians just to come up and write the stuff. Like Kyle mentioned, Hey You, that batch of songs that came about. That was the first iteration. And then we found some permanent members. And the pandemic happened. And during that time, people obviously a majority of the band at the time worked in the arts, so they lost that income. So that sort of disrupted, the lineup a little bit, understandably. From there I met Luke, and Luke and I, which is the set that you heard at Tomcat. That's where we started writing. I think we've been writing together for nearly 3 years now. And then we just decided to get stuck into it and write as much as we could, get a good back catalogue going. And I think at that time it was 2021, two maybe. I was 21. I wasn't doing so good. It was just a tough period of my life. So it was good for me to sort of just take a step back from music and just focus on writing and not think about anything else. So that really helped. And then we've kind of been best buddies since. Continue to keep writing. Okay. Yeah, we catch up we talk every day. We catch up at least 1 to 2 times a week, and we just finished writing a new song on Friday. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah,
I think that's asking. What was the injury?
Oh, absolutely. So I used to do a very vocal heavy full-time role, job that pays for the band. And I was also in a band that firstly, I didn't have the backbone to say no or set boundaries. I didn't understand any of that. This is that long ago. And when I started noticing fry coming into my speech and noticing after about 4 hours of talking, I was struggling to talk for the rest of the day, even though my role was quite vocal load heavy. I noticed that, but then I also didn't have backbone to say no to the band. No, I'm just going to give you guide vocals. I'm not going to give you the full vocals, because there was a lot happening technically in that particular set with cleans and extremes and different kind of colors of distorted vocals. But the main issue was the speech, and that resulted in nodules, which were then reabsorbed over time. Yeah, probably. I gotta say,
they're so dangerous.
Man, I go get checked regularly because I screamed my I screamed my guts out for so long, and now we do this, and I have kids, so they cop it as well.
Make it bad.
They make their bed old. They're not do the dishes that old, but yeah,
look, dad voice takes a toll. But look, no, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, when they're learning to sing or do extreme vocals, and especially early on, it's not something that they ever think about. And I guess now it's a little bit better with so many resources available online and on YouTube, and so many lessons, and people just putting this stuff out there for free for people to learn. So maybe there's a bit more knowledge now for people coming up, but like when, especially when Kyle and I were coming up in the game, it was just like, you just kind of did it, and it didn't matter if
our idols smoked a pack a day and then went up there and screamed their guts out.
Yeah, and like if you didn't like, you just did it, right? And if your throat hurt, well, too fucking bad. You just kept doing it, and I think that during our generation coming up was when a lot of people started to realize, like, look, obviously we weren't the first generation to encounter like vocal nodules and things like not like nodules and stuff, but like, I think there was a bit more of a wider awareness that was coming out around it. And with the dissemination of like the Zen of Screaming DVD as well, that did a lot for people also. And, obviously not the first screaming vocal lessons that were out there for anything, but when you saw the interviews with these people on the DVD and about it, and they would get asked about it in interviews and stuff, and it was like, yeah, like I'd do a show and then I couldn't talk for 2 days because it was just ruining. I was doing it all the wrong way, right? And then they had learned, they went and they learned how to do it in a safe way so that they wouldn't hurt themselves. And so much of it's about warm-ups and like, I mean, I've worked with vocalists that just refuse to do warm-ups. They're like, you're like, okay, it's like time to do my warm-ups. Wow, yeah, I'm all warm as we go. And that's like it, and I'm just, it's like anything else, I guess knowledge is power, right? And you get if you're, whether you, it's not cool, you know what I mean? It's not cool to do warm-ups. It's not cool to practice and do all the nerdy shit. And look at James Hetfield.
It's not cool to miss shows.
James Hetfield realized he was losing his voice and he couldn't keep doing it, so he found someone to give him lessons, and he had the warm up tape so he could keep doing it. And I mean, we've seen
warm up on the way to shows in the car.
I know, that's what I used to do back in the day, and then I obviously, like, once I was in very good hands of like recovery and rehab, and I was like, oh, not supposed to do that in a car because you really don't have great diaphragmatic control. And also like back then, nobody, like all the vocalists used to push through any kind of sickness and stuff like that, or any injury. Nobody used to talk about it. It was almost deemed as like, oh, you're not a good enough vocalist, which is incredibly, like, anybody who's injured their voice or have come close to that, the shame that comes with it, because I definitely felt like I was a loser and I'm letting everybody down and I don't know what I'm doing. And I was a lot like, I was sort of in that age group at the time where you just kind of think you know everything. And I do, there was some cockiness involved there where it was kind of, I was humbled in the most amazing way by this injury, but at the same time, I think it's the best thing that happened to me because I really needed to stop and reflect at my life and see where I was and what I wanted to do. And also, like, the people I had around me, I don't think that was the best for me. So it just kind of brought everything to a really good perspective. And then I've been the best vocalist in my ability since, like, every year I have been reaching new milestones, and I can now go to a studio and record like for a whole day and be okay. But at the same time, also knowing my limits, like setting boundaries where, if, for example, when we released Damaged and Martyr, because there were only 2 songs, I decided to do each song in half a day over different days. Because I was like, hey, there's no like rush here. Let's just be smart about it. For our next release, it's a bigger release, so we've kind of panned it out that way. I've also since engaged I got a few more diagnoses since, in my normal life, which is like chronic pain and like some things that creates muscle tension, but then again, anything emotionally or physically will affect your voice. So seeing a voice physio, seeing like somebody who specializes in releasing like abdominal tension and stuff like that. All that kind of helps. So, and it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had that injury.
Yeah, silver linings,
to me, it was
I guess.
It was great. Like, it's a good thing that happened. Sucked at the time. But I think I needed life to just like kind of throw me a curveball, like to just stop me in my tracks and be like, "What are you doing? Get your shit together."
Well, it's you know, we don't for and this is it. Like, if you're a guitarist, drummer, bass player, keyboard player, whatever, and you get sick, you've got a head cold, you got the whatever. Okay, you can, you know, probably take some precautionary measures, but you can still go and play the show, right? But no one would expect a guitarist to play a show through a broken hand.
No.
So why, you know, because why not? Well, their hand's injured. They can't use one of the body parts that they need to perform that. Okay. This pressure on vocalists to still perform. Oh, you got a bit of a cold or a bit of a sore throat. Like, oh, well, you're some kind of pussy for not performing. It's like, no, that's your instrument. Like, you have to take care of it.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you push through pain that you shouldn't be pushing through, if you know, it's not like when, you know, you go to the gym and it's like, okay, pain is like, in the gym there's good pain and bad pain, right?
Totally.
There's no good pain when it comes to your voice and vocals.
No.
And
no, definitely not.
It's I think part of the maturing around that is just the general maturing of like the metal scene and attitudes towards things like, you know, physical illness, mental illness, skill and training and warming up on your instrument and things like that. This attitude of that, because like when, you know, we all came up through, like Kyle and I came up through the nu metal era, which was really big, just, you know, don't give a fuck vibes.
Yeah.
And
if you weren't the half cut when you went up on stage, were you really on stage?
And when the whole and when the whole vibe is don't give a fuck, like that, people tend to extend that to everything, to warming up and taking care of their instrument and their you know, their like ability to perform down the road for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
So it's so important. It's just like a, you know, like, I mean, bass player, I have chronic tendonitis, you know, I have to constantly be on guard for that and like be aware of, okay, how's my pain on a day-to-day basis? How's my, you know, am I having any issues with a little bit of tingling or any numbness in the fingers stemming from that, right? Am I like, how much do I need to rely on, like, you know, my wrist straps and support for things, right? And if, you know, I've gone through stages of playing where, you know, I had to, like, I couldn't play like with my fingers. I could only play with a pick because it was, you know, like my hobbies and my work are all at a computer, like with, you know, keyboard and mouse. And so had to make sure I got ergonomic stuff there away from music so that I'm properly taking care of that and minimizing the strain on that. You know, when I was going to the gym regularly, there's certain exercises that I couldn't do because they would twist my arm in a certain way or, you know, things like that. And and also on top of that, becoming aware of, you know, diagnoses that run in my family in relation to joint conditions and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you need to be aware of this stuff if you want to continue to play and perform long term, because if you
100%.
if you just disregard these things, and like, look, I made that mistake for a long time. I was just like, it's fine, I'll just, you know, push through it, and then it kind of got to the point of, or maybe I need to actually do something about this. And if I'd taken action sooner, it wouldn't be as bad as it is now.
That's why I'm digging this new wave of metalhead that takes care of themselves. These Alex Tobels, and you know what I mean? Like, they're just fit people, and they're like they actually take to some degree their health a bit, like they take their health a bit more seriously, so they can party on the other end, and it doesn't affect them so hard, and they have that really good balance. It's not that, look, I'm sorry, but the days of the freaks, unless I'm sure, you know, Tommy Lee has a million babies out there that we don't know about, and they're all like some genetic freaks or Keith Urban or some junk like that. But you're talking the exception, not the rule.
No, exactly. And also the wave of people that, like, I think Ollie was the first, at least in my radar, was the first person that was like, yeah, my voice isn't cutting it, so I'm going to cancel some shows. Once that happened, and I remember like I was going through it around the same time, and I was like, oh my God, thank God. Like people are recognizing it now. And since then, it's been a little bit more talked about. And also, I think once you've had an injury and you kind of develop a team around you, medical team, and also, like, I guess psychologically, because all of those things affect your playing, your singing. I'm a firm believer of that. Because at least for me, like, I tend to hold a lot of muscle tension, so especially neck or all of that kind of messes with my larynx. So once you kind of develop a team and the more you learn, it's quite amazing. And, like, obviously, like, a good skill as well. So I work with Queensland Voice Centre, who is Matthew Broadhurst. He's super amazingly well recognized. I remember he was like in UK doing some stuff and then came back, literally did my scope, and he's like, yeah, I just came back like this morning. And I was like, dude. so well in demand. My vocal coach is Dr. Dan Robinson, who again works very closely with Dr. Matthew Broadhurst. My speech therapist is from the same office. So yeah, all of those things really make a big difference. And the more you sort of take care of yourself, the more you build yourself for longevity. And it's kind of the same way. I feel like I'm big on, I used to be very much all or nothing, whereas now I'm a little bit more like, do it in a way that's sustainable in every way, musically. Like, so in every way within the music, whether it's financially, it's cases too much, then it's like it takes all the fun out of it. Vocal load. Every load. You know what I mean? It's just...
Well, I literally saw a band today post on, online, that they had to pull out of a show due to a like medical situation. And it's like, I think not only are like the performers getting more aware of the issues and understanding it more, I think the fans are also being a little more understanding. Like you are still going to get some people that want to, they want to talk shit, and like fuck them. But
and there's people like that everywhere in everything. So it's like whatever.
Exactly, and like and like there's famous
people on this planet. There's going to be a handful of dicks everywhere.
The that famous image that I'm sure we've probably all seen of like Zach Wilde shredding with like like bleeding from his fingers while he's playing. I'm like, yeah, okay, it makes for a badass image and a crazy story, and it's like, yeah, I was playing till my fingers bled, and cool, like that's not fucking healthy, like that's not a good move.
Ask him 6 months down the track. Whether he regrets it.
And like,
because vocally, you're kind of out of action for 6 months. If that, like, at least for me, when I had nodules, 6 months of nothing. It was just exercise and rehab, and then it took me another 1.5 years to get into a jam room. Because even though it was fine, the psychological aspect of that was crazy. Actually, when you saw me last perform, I was sick. I was quite sick. I lost my voice.
Really?
That week. Yeah. But again, having like the knowledge that I have behind me, now I had paced myself in a way and kind of laid all the groundwork so I didn't need to worry about hurting my voice. So I was quite unwell.
Well, very impressive for a performance that was coming out of that kind of place too.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah, it's just, I'm glad. I'm just glad to see in general, people are getting better.
It's actually funny because my mother-in-law doesn't use her voice enough, and she's just got out of vocal coaching and speech therapy because, she's on the other end of the scale where she doesn't use her voice enough, and she has problems with her speech and her voice and stuff like that. Like she struggles to talk because that muscle, because the voice is a muscle, hasn't been getting used enough properly because she's such a quiet lady.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah.
So it does go both ways.
It does work on the other end. And funny story, one of the Veronicas actually had a bunch of throat nodules removed as well. So you don't have to be doing extreme stuff. It's just you use it too much, it can happen to anyone.
Dell has a big history of pathology. Like and it's not just Dell. Like everybody does. Like it's majority of the professional vocal athletes, as my vocal coach calls them, they all have had that. I hope your mother-in-law is all good, by the way.
Oh, I can't wait to speak to her next. Supposedly she sounds completely different. Like all the speech therapy is done fantastic.
Yeah, and it would have done wonders for her confidence as well. Because that was a big
she can
thing
yell
for
at my
me.
father-in-law properly.
Do the dishes.
Wow. So not other than being, you know, in a performing band and, you know, that's that side of things, like you also work in sort of the management side of the industry. You know, tell the people a little bit about that, what you do in that capacity.
Oh, yeah. So I've been working in the industry, and actually, I'm so glad you mentioned the last Martyr. Because Monica was the person who sort of inspired me to sort of take the leap in the music industry and see if I could give it a go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, her and I go way back. So it was really lovely. So when they play in Brisbane, majority of the time they're sort of staying with me. Monica usually has a mattress right here behind me. So she had just launched, I think, or her music course was doing really well at the time, whether she had just launched it or whatever. It was, it was going gangbusters. So I started just like freelancing. And when I say freelancing, it was literally for free. I just was like doing copywriting work. So writing biographies and writing press releases, stuff like that. Started off with that. Or like if somebody needed merch, then I'm like, just grab me, it's fine. And then I kind of eventually built enough of a network to sort of get myself to be a publicist. So Monique from Relica and actually Miles too from Relica, we used to all work together, working in music, publicity and marketing for a little while during the pandemic. And and then once the pandemic had quite an effect. I mean, it was going really well, but then obviously cost of living and all that started rising and not everybody could afford artist services, totally understand. So then I sort of pivoted to just working. I had a consult with Monica again, and I was like, what should I do? I'm not kind of sure where I want to go in terms of like what I want to. I don't know if I want to do publicity just yet. Let's just see what other options are available. So I had a chat with Good Intent, and now I am working as their A&R rep. So they do everything like from artist management to label services, publicity. PR is kind of their bread and butter. But I think in this kind of market, like digital marketing is just as important as publicity and content creation. So helping a lot of bands out with that. They're running free consults at the moment. So any band that wants to check it out, just jump on Good Intent. And the team, the directors have been great and I love it. So I'm here for the long run with them. So
hell yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. We'll try and put put the link in for Good Intent in the thing under the video. So if people want to reach out, they can absolutely do that. You know, I feel like the team at Good Intent, like when I was having a look through the page, they, you know, the roster that is under there is pretty damn good. It's pretty damn impressive. So it's the, you know, I think looking at that roster, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So these guys know what they're doing. Like it's
my value system aligns very, and I guess I'm big on that now since therapy. Align yourself with people, you know, who have a similar value system, and oh my god, it works. So my value system aligns very well with theirs, where it's all about just giving people a hand. They do a grant every year called Greater Good. So just helping with the community. It's a $30,000 grant. So people should definitely apply for it. And like this free consultation is another one of the initiatives to just give back to the community and help people out. And it's all about good music, good people, we'll work together. And that's really like what I love about being in the industry and helping, I don't know, like helping artists out. And just, it feels very nice to be of service to artists, especially as an artist myself. Everybody in the team that I work with, they're all current musicians or have lots of experience previously as a musician, so they really get it. But it's the bottom line is like we are pretty upfront if we don't feel that campaign's not gonna perform as well as we'd like to, we tell them people straight up. So we're we don't want to just take money kind of thing. So honesty, integrity, authenticity.
Big thing.
That's big.
And it's a big thing. I mean, and like I stepped my toe into it as well. I was trying to create content for bands at live shows and trying to give them something when they walked off stage from a show that they could put online on Instagram or something just to, you know, it doesn't, like, the hardest part for most bands is trying to find what works and what doesn't. Absolutely. And for a lot of, I guess for a lot of older bands, older people that don't really get the whole the digital footprint sort of thing, it can be really hard. A lot of these younger bands just get it. A lot of these younger bands just get it straight away. They've grown up with it. They've absorbed it. They know exactly what to do. And it's so good that you do grands. Tell us a bit more about that. So how do people apply for that?
Yeah, so there's usually a press release that goes out when that happens. So last year, so that includes like a chunk of the studio that is Good Loco, which is in Marrickville. Consultations, publicity, like pretty much getting a really good product and really good marketing and support behind it for an artist who's like awarded that. So whenever their next release is, which is usually pretty much following grant awarding, it's solid. It looks good. It sounds good. It's backed by a solid plan. It's backed by solid PR. So yeah.
Cool. So people should make sure they follow Good Intent on all the things so they can be aware of when that's coming around. I mean, and look, like what I just want to touch on what you said as well there about, like, you know, being able to support, you know, the scene and the community and the artists and stuff. Like, you know, as small as our numbers are on the channel, that's like part of the enjoyment and the satisfaction that we get out of doing these podcasts and the channel and everything is like,
we were actually talking about this today.
It allows us to, you know, provide in our own small way, a degree of, you know, support for various artists, and it keeps us engaged with what's happening in the scene and what the vibe is on, you know, of different things and people's the opinions on things out there, and you know, it's obviously, you know, like there's going to be gaps on everything.
That gave us so fucking much.
Yeah, like we had so much fun doing all the shit.
Like my whole life's been based around this stuff. Like I don't think I actually have a friend that's not based around the music anymore.
Yep.
Same.
Through my escapades in music. I wouldn't be alive if this wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Same.
So that's
totally.
That's part of the things, you know, reason that we do the podcast, and, you know, we like to, because it like I said, it's just a way for us to continue to engage with the scene. Like Kyle, you know, used to be in bands, doesn't really play in bands anymore. I've been in a lot of bands over the last sort of, you know, 15 plus years, and we're
still killing it. You
know, still doing stuff, but also like dipping in and out, and not sort of as frequently as possible. And it's like this is just another way for us to continue to engage with the scene and be active and part of it. And, you know, like it allows us to be aware of awesome bands that are out there doing cool stuff. It inspires us to get out to a lot of gigs as well. Like I've just picked up just last week, you know, a couple of those. So that little lapel mic that Kyle's wearing, if you can see it on the thing, picked up a couple of those so that when I'm out at gigs, I can be, you know, if I'm talking to artists or I see a band there that I really, really like. So if you see me at a gig and you're in a band, pay attention, because I'm probably going to come up to you. You know, I can approach artists and bands at shows and get some stuff then and there in the moment. Or if I'm going to a bigger event like a music festival or something, I can talk to, you know, I can give live sort of thoughts and feedback on the day, and then also get that from other people. I can, you know, interview and talk to people that are there in the moment and get their thoughts on it, and try and, you know, and it's all in service of like growing what we're doing so that we can continue to put that bigger platform out for people, and, you know, and also expand it. Like literally like last week we had, we had Dead Wax on there, this great band from the UK that are doing this like very unique sound.
I saw that. Yeah.
They're mixing like kind of metal and like new metal type stuff with like a UK grime kind of sound rather than, so it's like new metal but with grime instead of rap, which is a little bit different to what we're used to here. And it's just like it's part of our way of giving, as we said, giving back and keeping engaged with the scene, continuing to meet people and network and just grow these things because, I'm not going to be able to physically like lug all my shit around and play bass forever, especially if this tendonitis carries on.
Yeah, right.
But I can sit in a chair and talk to people.
And you're always been involved in the scene.
And I got to say, your support is definitely noticed because when we met, you're like, oh yeah, this, and I'm like, I've seen you. And then I went, look, I'm like, yeah, I've been following y'all. But also, I'm pretty
that's
sure
bad.
yeah, I was already following y'all. And I'm pretty sure I've seen you at gigs before. Yeah. And so yeah, your support is very much appreciated.
I'm around.
Yeah,
I'm hard to miss. I'm a big dude. I'm hard to miss. But yeah, like and like I want to support the scene because I like being part of the scene. I like building it. Like I used to live in Sydney. Kyle does live in Sydney. Kyle and I both went through that period in sort of the 2010s when the Sydney scene sort of ate itself for a while, and like it was horrible. It was horrible. Like bands
that
were
on top of lockout laws. Or...
Bands, yeah.
Oh, the lockout laws. I remember that.
The lockout laws were a big part of it. Like, there was already a bit of a downturn, and bands kind of coming out of the 2000s when bands were super supportive and really sort of helping each other up. And if a band did well, they'd kind of like throw the ladder down behind them to help other bands up. Whereas we kind of moving into the 2010s, like there was a lot of, a lot more selfishness as opportunities went away, as opportunities became sort of more slim pickings. People would sort of protect the opportunities that they had and not want to sort of, not want to put the ladder down for other people because they're like, well, what if it takes away from our opportunity? And while I will never begrudge a band taking advantage of an opportunity that they're given, shitting on other bands, keeping secrets from other bands of like, or how did you get that opportunity? Well, we spoke to these people. Like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, I understand you don't want to, if you've got a confidential contact somewhere, you don't want to just give that away to everybody because you don't want that contact being bugged and then that ruining your relationship with them. I do understand that's an important thing, but bands like gatekeeping connections and knowledge on how to get opportunities, bands shitting on other bands behind the scenes so that they wouldn't get opportunities, bands going, and again, like it's fine to want to work with your friends, but bands sort of only ever playing with the same sort of the small group of the sort of like two or three bands always kind of playing together, and every time a gig comes up for one of them, they automatically give the opportunities first to their mates' bands. Which again, like I understand wanting to play with your mates, but a healthy scene isn't made out of three bands.
Really?
So in trying to ensure that there's enough for everyone is super important. And since moving up to Brisbane and then coming out of the COVID restrictions, being able to get my ass out there and seeing just even in the valley, like you go out and there's like, two or three kind of, there's half a dozen sort of rock or metal gigs on in the valley in any given night. And that's not even talking about venues like Mansfield Tavern if it's a bigger show, or the back room at Shadron's Corner. That's not even talking about sort of other venues that are around, not just in the Valley area as well. There's and yes, there's been some unfortunate closures, like obviously with Crowbar. You know what? when
Crowbar closed?
When the team from Crowbar up here, so the team from Crowbar up here took over a venue in Sydney, and they kind of revamped that and did a great job with it.
It's going gangbusters.
When I was moving,
I played there. It was so good.
And I'd played at Crowbar up here once with Tensions Arise. Like one show we did up here, right? I think it was with one of Todd Hanson's bands, Rome. I think it might have been. But anyway, we played Brisbane Crowbar with it, and we was like, oh, it's a great venue, really really good time. And I was looking forward to that being a place I could go when I moved up. And then about shortly before I moved up, they're like, we're going to be closed. I'm like, fuck. But like, I mean, losing Crowbar, and then more recently with like, with King Lear's and Bad Luck sort of going away. And I'm really sorry. I feel awful. I've forgotten the name of it now. But the other one in the Valley that closed recently, is closing. The Zoo, that's the one. The Zoo,
yeah. And the Foundry was another one that was like good for like smaller capacity shows.
I was thinking about this. It's funny because I was actually thinking about this the other day. You all have a lot of venues up there. Do you think those other venues closing is obviously sort of forced those regulars to find refuge at other places, which has automatically sort of filled up those other places a bit more?
So it's shoring up a little bit, kind of consolidating the things. I think. Look, there's a lot of venues. There was quite a number of venues for a decent while. You know, it's not like
we were spoiled, man.
Yeah, it's not like 10 venues opened overnight and that killed everything.
Because we had fucking all in Sydney. Like all we had was the Crowbars, Frankie's Pizza, and like every second bloody brewery would put a rock band on or a cover show or something like that. But it was very few and far between that we had like some metal shows. Like we got one out at Southwest Sydney now and stuff like that. But as far as the city went, sounds like just along the valley, if you had like 3 or 4 venues to go see a rock show,
yeah. And you know, there's a variety of styles of venue. Like there's a lot of dive bars, and that fits the vibe, you know.
I might have to do a 2 Dudes tour. I might have to drive up there after. You might have to take me to the valley. I've never been.
Head out to the valley and just do a whip around of all the dive bars.
We'll have to get a couple of the bands together, and you're gonna have to show me around. We're gonna have to tear it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Like in Brisbane in particular, for up and coming bands or like bands that are very new in the scene, particularly like people just leaving school and start like bands from school and getting into the mainstream. We were pretty spoiled for choice with that. They had a platform for up and comers. There was a lot. I think we still do to a degree. I definitely think the Zoo closing was awful. That takes that away. But you know,
don't get me wrong. Iconic venues closing is always going to be a sad thing. But I'm sure someone will pick it up. Yeah,
well, like Brightside's still going. Obviously, Tomcat. Does Jolly Roger do bands from time to time as well?
Sometimes, yeah.
You know, O'Sculligan's, I think if O'Sculligan's can sort out the soundproofing issue, then they'll probably start doing bands again. You got Greaser Bar. I have heard inkling. I've heard rumors that something is going to be opening up again in the space where King Lear's was. So, you know, there's still like several kind of opportunities out there, even just in the valley, right?
Yeah, Black Bear Lodge, Fortitude Musical, Outpost.
Yeah, so there's loads of stuff there. It's which is great to see, and you know, you can go out to a show on any given night in the valley, and there's going to be people there, which is because it's an entertainment precinct. There's always people out and about in the valley. It's always there, and if you start looking at bigger venues as well, you've got like the Soundgarden down there, you know, and it's just there's a lot happening there, you know, but I think it's also helpful that a lot of the venues can do a variety of genres as well. They're not necessarily like just focused on rock or metal. They can put on, you know, acoustic shows or country shows or rap shows, hip hop shows or whatever. They're suitable for a variety, which is always good to see, and that's always going to help live venues, you know, have more longevity.
Yeah, definitely. Even like when I did publicity, just doing like tour publicity. At the time, I was specifically working with the heavy genre, but I did Bellacor's tour. That was 2022, and like a lot of extreme metal bands, international bands, that were coming around and there was, even though like 1 week you would have like, Velvetinia playing, and then you would have somebody that's like very indie rock or shoegaze at the same venue. So that's been pretty cool to see. I like how we're now bringing a lot of, especially with Destroyer Lines, they're bringing like a lot of different genres out now, which is amazing to see.
It is.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's almost feel like it's almost, I'm getting that nostalgic feeling that my dad used to talk about from the 80s, where rock is starting to become king again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you got so many awesome rock and metal bands coming out. Now that metal is sort of starting to become really more accepted with Bring Me the Horizons doing stuff with who was it? Who was that rapper they done stuff with?
Oh, was it Lil Uzi Vert? Was it? No.
Lil Uzi Vert. Yeah. You got that new one from Eskimo Callboy and Baby Metal.
Yep.
It's just it is slowly. No, it's not slowly anymore.
Poppy.
Yes, Poppy. Yes, absolutely.
Poppy,
yeah.
You've seen Queen, stuff like that. The whole game is changing, and I think people are starting to become a bit. Yeah, yes, people may not like metal as a genre, but I guarantee you, I can find you a metal band that you will enjoy.
Yes.
Like, there's so many good subgenres that are accessible.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
You give me 20 minutes with your Spotify list, I'll find you something you will enjoy.
Nice.
Yeah. It's there's the thing that, I mean, people that are fans of metal have known for a very long time that metal is one of the most malleable genres. It is a genre that you can blend with nearly everything else and find a way to make it work. Which is just so it's surprising to a lot of people.
Yeah, well, so much so then now that it's tipped into cultural instruments, bloody wood.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's going.
I love bloody wood.
Yeah.
So do we.
I mean, we did.
Sorry.
No. You
go.
Because I'm Indian, and there was one of the reasons I moved countries.
I'm half Indian.
Because what's up? It's one of the reasons I moved countries was to pursue heavy music. And because there was nothing when I was growing up. There was absolutely nothing. I grew up on MTV and like lots of HBO movies, literally. And there was just nothing. And I obviously had, like, there was not a lot of representation. That's I feel pretty strongly about that, particularly as a female Indian woman. I think it's important to sort of have that representation for up and coming people. Because like if I would have seen somebody like myself from my own country doing the kind of stuff that I do, it would have really helped me feel more confident as I was coming up. But yeah, I moved countries specifically to be able to write and play heavy music.
That's awesome.
I was self-made.
So that's amazing. So okay, because that's all I want to ask then. Because have you seen the? It was a few years ago now. Bloodywood put out a documentary on YouTube around their first tour. Okay, you might find it quite interesting then. So they went through a period of, obviously they were just on YouTube, like they were just playing for themselves and they were doing it on YouTube, and sort of because there was nowhere for them to play live, like they just couldn't do it, right? So what and basically as they started to get bigger on YouTube and gain a bit more traction there, they had a booking agent from Europe reach out to them and was like, hey, I'd love to put you guys on a tour, blah, blah, blah. They were like, oh, that's just really, really cool. Just one problem. We've never played live before.
Okay.
And so they, set everything up what they basically ended up doing was hiring a venue and setting it up for live performance purely so they could practice performing on a stage rather than in a rehearsal space, and what it was going to feel like and be like to be in that space, working through a PA system, etc., and have their crew kind of get used to it. So they did, like, their first shows was this European tour, and the guy managed to get them on Wacken as the final show of the tour, and they were like, all right, you know, look, doesn't matter if there's like no one in the crowd, like, we've played Wacken, this is incredible, and they were like, and I mean, they went through like hell on that tour. Like, there was one of the stops they were getting, like, there was like a fucking massive storm came in and half the shit got flooded out. And they're like walking through like, you know, almost waist deep water, like carrying the shit on their heads to get it through. But when it came to Wacken, they're like, all right, cool. Like, we got no idea how many people are going to be there. Like, surely this has been really, really good tour so far, but it's Wacken. Like, people are going to go and see all the other huge bands. Like, they're not going to come down and see us, like, especially since it's our first time here. And they were setting up, and one of the guys looked through the curtain and was like, that tent's full. And they were like, what? They're like, and people were and you watch the video, the tent was not only full, but like the entrances and exits were crowded with people outside trying to see. And that's how many people were wanting to watch them and see them.
I'm going to have to find that.
They're bloody good though. That's so good.
Oh, they're unreal. They're so good. And the work that those guys are doing and the way they are, like, we said it the other day when we did a reaction for the latest one from Shepherd's Reign, which is they're like a Polynesian metal band based in Auckland. And, you know, there is like heavy metal by its very nature it's based in like a primality, like a primal sort of 100%. You know, and that is often enhanced when you are bringing in, especially when it comes to drumming, when you're bringing in like traditional drumming from various cultures. I think that enhances it a lot. And it's not to suggest that non-Western cultures are inherently more like primal or primitive, but the point I'm trying to get across there is like drumming was the first drumming and singing was like the first music. Yeah. You know, so that's something. Drumming and singing is something that is in our blood, in our DNA, for hundreds of thousands of years. Like before there was people, there was music, which is insane to think about. And so when you hear like a tribal or sort of drum beat, or like, and a lot of this more, you know, a lot of this sort of non-Western, you know, traditional music is still very rooted in a lot of that. And when you take that element and you're mixing it with metal, it immediately adds like you listen to anything like what Max Cavalera was doing with Soulfly and you know, Sepultura sort of in the early days, where they infused a lot of those from there, and and then you bring System of a Down, bringing in a lot of those, using different modes to give it, obviously relying on more of like an Arabic sound and, you know, Middle Eastern rooted melodies there, and like when you've got bands like like Baby Metal coming out of Japan, and they're utilizing, you know, they're using different kind of scales again to give, you know, and it's just different and interesting, and it engages. It sort of like I said, there's this primal element to it. I think that's really enhanced by that can be enhanced by a lot of the rhythms and you know, more traditional instrumentation from various cultures across the world. Like even if you look at Western cultures with it, and you go into things like, you know, traditional like Celtic instrumentation, that's bringing in an element there as well.
Oh, you had Korn do it. You had Korn do it when they with the bagpipes.
Yep. With bagpipes there, that's something you don't normally get. And a lot of these, like the Celtic metal bands that bring this stuff in as well, like that's essentially just these bands that do, like I said, like the Celtic metal stuff, that's basically a Western version of what, you know, Bloodywood and Shepherd's Reign are doing, and bringing like traditional instrumentation from that culture into a metal setting.
Viking
and
metal.
it's just, there's
there you go.
that's one of the things that I love so much about it. It's the variety. But yeah. So I kind of been on a tangent there, but that documentary that Bloodywood put out. I don't even know if it's still on their channel. But if it is, definitely try and find it, because it's well worth a watch. Just to see their sort of them kind of realizing like how popular they are.
Yeah.
Outside of because I have to imagine like I can't like when when Kyle and I grew up listening to metal and engaging with that, it was always frowned upon by
same.
By things, but I got to when I was watching
this is not music. But what I used to get.
But like the global metal documentary as well kind of shone a light on it, as did the first half of Lamb of God's As the Palaces Burn film that they released. We've got it so easy in like Western countries when it comes to metal.
100%, 100%.
As bad as we think we've got it, like it gets.
To be fair, in Western countries, we got it pretty good in pretty much every aspect.
Yeah, like in a lot of Asian cultures, like Middle Eastern cultures, Southeast Asian cultures, it's just like
it's still quite tabooed to sort of be listening to that stuff.
Yeah, it's not like your parents don't like the music you listen to. It's like they'll fucking like.
No, there's like a visceral reaction from inside them that actually they still got that it's the devil mentality.
Exactly. That's something that I have nothing against religious people. I feel like if it helps you in your life, that's great. Good for you. It's not for me. And I grew up with academics with zero emotional intelligence who were heavily rooted in religion. In Hinduism, but then they sent me to a Catholic school, so I was so confused. But at the same time, neither of those areas allowed for free expression or calling people out or like standing up for yourself, especially as a young girl. I had to be like, oh no, you just have to be nice. This is where my people pleasing started, and I'm still recovering from I call myself a recovering people pleaser. But so there was like I used to rebel a bit, because that's just, it was like the dynamic was my sister was the invisible child. I was the would push every button to get a reaction, because that's the only way I got any kind of attention from my parents. So I'm fine, by the way. It's okay. Years of therapy, I'm good. This is why I'm a musician. You don't regret it. But so listening to that, like listening to Slipknot, I remember playing like Iowa, and my parents were just being like, oh my God, our kid listens to like devil music and whatnot. Like, yo, like if it wasn't for that music and those bands, I don't know what my teenage self would have done. I don't think my teenage self would have survived what I was going through. So at the time. So and that has been such a, like for me, it was such a primal, like my little crutch that I was like, this cannot be taken away from me, that I think I've carried through regardless of whatever stage of my life I'm at. If shit is hitting the fan, just listen to metal for me, and that really helps. That just, whatever it does, it just has like this wonderful, beautiful paired association from back in those days to just be like,
How long did you live in India for?
I would say for majority of my teens, yeah.
Oh wow! So that would have been like, that would have been okay. So heavily Hindu family, rooted in academics. I'm Anglo. Yes. My family was Anglo-Indian. That's neither here nor there, but definitely not rooted in academics. My grandfather was part of the Merchant Navy, whatever.
Right.
But,
yep.
I can only imagine how hard that would have been for you, being two girls, and then liking the stuff that you would have liked. That would have been fucking sane.
Yeah, it really was. And I think because I was, in a way, I guess something that I've learned through therapy. I talk about therapy a lot, but
No, that's fine.
This is like expressing yourself. That's how you kind of learn how to do that and explore it. But something I learned in therapy was in every like dysfunctional family, you've got an invisible child that just the way they cope through everything is they're just not there. They will obey their parents. They will do everything. So sometimes like parents would hit the kids against each other, but the invisible child, even though they don't want to hurt their sibling, has to follow along because that's their like coping mechanism, right? And then you've got the one that would push all the buttons, which is me, but the reason for that is I'm taking attention away from my sister, so she's safe. So it was like a safety thing. It was like my little way of protecting her. And there's only 2 years difference between us, so like, we were both like pretty close in age, so I guess I didn't know a lot better than she did. But so there was like a lot of like safety issues. And this is again, it's just my experience. To me, it was. I'm not saying every Indian family is like this. This is just simply my experience. But there was a lot of safety stuff. Being a young kid, a girl, and us both being girls, us both going to like private schools. That was like because it was very expensive. And my parents at one point were well off, and then it declined very quickly. But so that was really frowned upon. I guess people got jealous and stuff like that. So all of that created a lot of just a very ever-present feeling of not feeling safe, and you can't like step out of your lane. So me listening to metal, me writing lyrics like that, and me collect like my scrapbooks of all the metal bands that I used to like. I still have one of them, and all the lyrics I used to write down, like Linkin Park. Oh, I was such a dramatic kid. I would leave like Linkin Park Numb lyrics open on the kitchen bench so my parents could read that. That's what they're doing to me, Just such a vibe. So all that was very much frowned upon, but also created many situations where it was unsafe for me to really express myself the way I did, and just me being me was like, fuck you, I'm going to express myself. And found myself in many situations that wasn't good, and involved quite a lot of like feelings of not feeling safe at all.
Well, I mean,
I think the problem is when you don't let kids rebel, every kid's going to rebel. If you don't let them do it healthily, it goes to some really stupid extremes, and kids will just make some stupid. I'm one of them. Believe me, I'm one of them. Like we make some stupid decisions without any thought or reason, just for the sake of just being like, you know what, fuck this. Like,
totally.
Fuck this, fuck you, fuck everything. I know this is dumb, but I'm going to do it fucking anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And because you don't have a safe space to talk about it or like get your feelings validated, so you do these silly things. In my case, it was definitely a lot of that. I totally did that. But there was a lot of just me expressing myself led to me being put in unsafe situations, which I was like, so shit. I was like, this is so not fair. I don't like it. And because I grew up watching a lot of like the Western TV, for me, when I moved here, there was zero culture shock. I was like, I can finally be me. It was so good.
But that's awesome. Like, like we're really glad, really glad you were able to, find a way out of that sort of situation.
And find a community.
And find a community and find a place where you're, happy and comfortable and feeling like you're part of that sort of that, part of the scene, part of the culture, part of, all that sort of thing. And we can only hope, I think, that the trend sort of long term is that these things are more accepted. I think that in Western culture, at least for the most part, heavy metal is pretty accepted now. A lot of people may not understand it, but they are at least, okay, that's just a thing that exists now. It's not taboo anymore the way it used to be. And I think this is why like the whole like you had dad rock and now you got dad metal, like all these these metal bands now are sort of metal and rock isn't seen as dangerous or edgy anymore because it's been around and people have kind of gone, oh, okay, like they're not sacrificing goats, they're not doing all of this stuff, they're not so
CEOs listen to this, it's fine.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think
this is what I was conceived to. That's what my dad keeps telling me.
Let's hope, and as long as I think, I just do hope, that trend sort of can continue throughout other parts of the world where these things are still very much frowned on, because, like metal is life, metal is love, and we want to, it's. I think the best description that I've heard about it actually was from a quote from Phil Anselmo from Pantera, funnily enough, at the 1991 Moscow Monsters of Rock festival, kind of just after the country was kind of opening up, for the first time in a long time, and the like huge crowd of teenagers that had been listening to metal anyway, but it was a very frowned upon thing culturally there, right?
Yeah.
And he Phil Anselmo said something to the effect of, heavy metal is controlled violence in a violent world. And I agree, like it's a cathartic way of dealing with, like processing a lot of negative emotions.
Exactly.
Like people, it's not. I think we've touched on this once or twice on the podcast previously, right? Like it's when you're for everyone's different. So I fully recognize that this may not be applied to everybody, but for a lot of people, if you're sad, you don't like listening to happy music isn't necessarily going to fix that. Like if you're sad, you need to listen to sad music. You need to feel your feelings, write it out, and then come out the other side of that, right? Exactly. When you're angry, like you need to listen to listening to angry music helps you write out those emotions, write out those feelings. And I think this is where we get the correlation of a lot of people that are neurodivergent or dealing with things like anxiety, depression, those sorts
all of the above.
those sorts of I don't know if conditions is the right word. I don't want to make it sound like they're suffering, but it's, that are dealing with those sorts of things are drawn to heavy metal because they are so frustrated by A, what they're dealing with, and B, with society's almost insistence on not understanding these things. And so they're drawn to metal, drawn to alternative genres, and then that's kind of what people look at it and go, well, okay, a lot of people listen to metal, and a lot of the people listening to metal are depressed, so listening to metal must cause depression. It's like, no, you've got it the wrong way around.
Opposite.
You've got it the wrong way around, mate. And again, this just comes from people taking the time to learn and understand, what it's about. I really think it's very, very true to say, like, a great way to get to know someone is to listen to their favorite songs.
Oh, yeah. And all of mine are sad and angry because I love that. That kind of emotive, at least in my case, it was hard for me to, again, I learned this in therapy, but it was hard for me to show any kind of negative emotions because they were like so stifled growing up that I had learned to just completely disconnect from them. So when I was finally, like subconsciously, I was obviously like feeling those feelings, and that's why I would be very much kind of bringing myself to this music that I just remember I'm like, oh my God, finally somebody understands what I'm going through. And whereas now it comes from a different perspective where I'm no longer disconnected. I'm no longer fragmented. I'm dealing with a pretty healthy emotional life now. And it feels really good to just listen to a song and have that moving sort of feeling. I know a song's good regardless of the genre if it moves me. And a lot of times it's the sad and angry songs for me that do that. And I think I like to say, I'm like, hey, I never got to feel those feelings as a kid, so I'm feeling them now. Let me do it.
Just let me feel my feelings, Mom.
Yeah. It sounds very masochistic, but I it feels good to be able to access those feelings to give a performance in a healthy way where I can access it and then put it away and then move on with my life and go like, you know, paint a rainbow and bake shit. Well, I don't bake, actually. I shouldn't say that. But, you know, just play with my nephews or whatever. Do silly things.
The thing is,
but I think it really helps balance that.
They think we all take it home. It's like, they don't. Like, they found a healthy, constructive way to deal with their emotions, and that would be on stage. Which is why we understand if bands completely like, I do not want to play that song anymore. I know you love it, but I don't want to play it anymore. It puts me in a bad place. Completely understand. But it's like they found a really healthy way to deal with their emotions. Whether or not, like, they're healthy people, that's completely different to that. But to write it all down and air it out and make it artistic, to me, that's a therapeutic way of dealing with your emotions.
Absolutely. Catharsis. And now that I'm moving into the conceptual pieces, like writing those, it's been such a wonderful way to sort of be like, oh yeah, I'm not really like sad and angry anymore, so I don't really have anything to write about. Let's just be like conceptual, and then put myself in other people's places and write themes around that and music around that. But like last Friday, we were writing a song for let me just backtrack a little bit. I think my neurodivergence is showing now where I'm just talking about 6 things at once.
No, that's okay. I was going to ask about the recording and writing process you guys are getting into at the moment.
Talking to the 2 people that can keep up.
That's good. I love it. I love it. So essentially, like, we spent last year all just writing a ton of music, and only to just like refine, take any feedback we received from like a producer from Damaged and Martyr when we released those and wrote those. Really like give our music to people, like our manager, give it to like a bunch of different people that we respect. Be like, what are we doing wrong? Like, is there anything that you can see that's a theme that we can fix? So, and really like taking that feedback on board and refining our writing and all that jazz, which is what you saw at the Last Martyrs show, was a result of that. and refining our songwriting. So we spent we wrote so many songs, it was ridiculous. And then we picked the best 6, which we have just started recording. It's an EP. I can't disclose the name, but it is a conceptual piece that is written about a couple who goes through a miscarriage and loses their baby and goes through like their own individual journeys of grief and trauma and grappling with what they went through as kids, because a lot of that stuff comes up. And then coming together as one and then helping other people. Now, none of this has happened to me, but you know, I'm a very happy child. I love kids, but I give them back.
Yes,
I'm gonna have to give that a good listen.
Child free for life, baby.
Yeah, I like it. I donated my eggs. I did my bit. I'm good.
Good on you.
Oh, thank you. So, so it was really nice to be able to write about that stuff and just to be in a very healthy frame of mind and be in a space where none of that. Anything I'm writing, I don't have to try and find a way to reflect exactly what I'm feeling. It's like, it wasn't me. Okay. It was this other person. And so that's made like a new challenge of writing. So we're recording that now, but now that those songs are finalized and are just currently being recorded and songwriting's all done, we're kind of spending the rest of the time writing the following release from that. And the whole reason why we wanted to do that is take a break. Our guitarist had a new baby, just wanted to make sure, you know, everybody was all settled and everything, and it didn't want to, obviously, you know, like having a new baby changes things up for each individual, so we wanted to make sure that that family felt supported in every way. so yeah, and once and so take that time, neurodivergence. So take that time off, but write and make it as productive as possible. So next year when we release, it's going to be one release after another, like really set the scene with strong marketing campaigns, strong PR campaigns, so our numbers can go back up. And we knew, okay, well, if we're going to take this year off, holistically it makes sense, mentally it makes sense, financially it makes sense, because Cozzy Lives is fucking me up and you know, everybody up. So you know, working 60 hours a week is kind of the norm for me now to make sure like my health expenses are taken care of, my life is taken care of, my band expenses are taken care of. So how do we maintain creative flow, enthusiasm, good morale while all of this is happening? Okay, we take a hit on our numbers and that's fine. Our numbers are monthly listeners are going to go down, socials are going to go down for a little bit. That's fine. We take that hit, but then we follow it up with back-to-back releases and set ourselves up in a way where we can continue to do that. So investing that time to write all the like 2 extended releases and get feedback from people and really apply ourselves and kind of level up our songwriting, level up our production in every way and save money so we can really throw everything at it. That's helped heaps. So coming back to how funny it is, because all of our releases that are coming up, the next 2 big EPs that are coming up, they're all conceptual and they're very dark. But you know what we were doing last Friday? Writing those riffs with a little 3-month-old in my arms, which is my guitarist little baby, and just chilling, just like laughing, and then oh yeah, I better track this little part. Okay, cool, and then go back to just watching Auntie Donna and just doing stupid shit.
That's good.
You have to make sure you don't listen to that one on shuffle.
Well, it's good that things are kind of flowing really well for you in that department. So it's looking like probably you were saying next year for any of that new stuff to get released, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because we want to do it properly. And if we rush it, again, it really comes down to finances, and it's not cheap. Like for us, when we budgeted first EP, like the one that's coming out next year, $25K. With everything. So that's a lot of money to just come up out of nowhere. And so you got to like plan for that. And that doesn't include touring. That just includes releasing all the good quality assets, good quality production, and marketing campaign. Yeah. It doesn't even include the ad spend. So
yeah.
That's the funny thing. T-Pain used to say the exact same thing. It's like 200 grand. 200 grand is what he used to have to spend on an album or something like that to get it released properly, marketing, all that stuff done. It's just like, you haven't even sold a copy yet. You haven't yet.
And people wonder why there's not new artists sort of coming up into the top spots of the industry.
I mean, it's tough, but it's still definitely worth it. And I think it's gonna come to its own natural, like, not everything is going to be so expensive. Not everybody will have to work 60 plus hours just to get by. It really fucking sucks right now. But I think if we just, I feel like us musicians are a pretty resilient bunch, and we've been through the pandemic. I feel like this is kind of the after effects of that. Once we get through this, I think it'll all be good. And that's why it's important to sort of not think about numbers and not think about all those things and just really think about what holistically works with you as a group and you as a person. Which is the advice I give to everybody. I'm like, yes, everybody's going to tell you to release every 6 weeks because they are not wrong. All those things do generate traction and do generate all those like good numbers and all the things that you want. But you could either completely get burnt out and discouraged and have zero morale in this space right now, especially this year with the cost of living. If you can afford it, absolutely go nuts. But if you can't, like, it's better to just breathe and why you do this, why especially the connection between the fans and you is the key thing. That's why you do it.
For sure.
It's important to like do things to preserve that.
Definitely is. So, all right, where can people find Torizon if they want to follow you guys, and also Good Intent? Where's the best places for people to follow both of those?
So just jump on our website, goodintent.com.au. It's fun. Just Google Good Intent, you'll see it. And Torizon, every new follower I get, please send me a DM of exactly what you thought, how to pronounce a name. I love all of those. It's so fun. If you look up Torizon Band on all social media streaming services, it's there. If you just want to jump on our Facebook, Torizon Band, the LinkTree's there. It'll take you to everything. And we love talking to our fans, and especially with the last Martyr show was the last one when we did just before going on stage. A couple of days before the show, we got a message saying, "Hey, my wife loves your music, but she can't come because she's sick." I'm like, we'll get set list signed for you. We'll do these things. Don't stress, and all this. We love doing that stuff. So
That's
come
awesome.
talk to us. We're just a bunch of Pokemon nerds and just people with low self-esteem trying to do something cool.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you very, very much for taking the time to talk with us today, Mish. We really, really appreciate that. Everyone should go out there, follow Torizon, go and listen to all the stuff that's out there in preparation for all the cool shit that's coming up. If you liked the video, hit the like button down there. If you didn't, downvote it. If you had a great time with us today, we'd really appreciate it if you consider hitting the subscribe button. I have been Raff. That's just been Kyle. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.
Peace.